Hello everyone and welcome back to another video with Scruffy Tales. I'm not sure how many people were aware of the NLAW before the war in Ukraine broke out, but today, over a year later, this weapon has reached rock star levels of fame, having become known as the bane of Russian tanks that dares venture too close to Ukrainian infantry. Why not take a closer look at this deadly piece of kit? NLAW, in Sweden known as RB57, is a weapon designed and created by the Swedish company Saab. NLAW is short for Next Generation Light Anti-Tank Weapon. What Saab did was take an existing older anti-tank weapon, the RB56, and redesigned it. So instead of being a heavy two-man weapon system, it became basically a powerful AT-4. The RB56 was taken into service in the 80s and was a wire-guided anti-tank missile. It was a very effective weapon as it was the world's first top attack missile, taken into service 10 years ahead of the famous Javelin. The RB56 differed a bit from other anti-tank guided missiles, in that it did not rely on a direct hit to take out its target. It would fly in over the enemy vehicle, and relying on sensors and magnets, it detected when an armored target was below it. This then triggered the heat round it carried, and the penetrator beam would then be launched downward at an angle at the target, striking the tank or APC or whatever you were shooting at from above, where armor has always been weakest traditionally. RB56 stands for Robot 56, robot being the Swedish term for a guided missile. 56 since it was the sixth anti-tank missile in use by the Swedish Army, RB51 being the first. For instance, RB55 is the Swedish name for the American TOW ATGM. Why they started counting from 50 and up, I don't really know. If anyone knows why, please share in the comment section. Another term for the RB56 is BIL, which means Bofors Infantry Light and Lethal. If that was the best they came up with, I wonder what ended up in the trash can. With reactive armor becoming popular to combat heat munitions, RB56 was upgraded to use a tandem warhead. This was the RB56B, as in Bravo, or Bertil, as we say in Sweden. A tandem warhead launches two blasts at the target, with the first blast intended to trigger reactive armor and remove it, to allow the main penetrator beam a clear shot at the armor. And it was this missile, RB56B, that Saab started to work on when development began to create the next generation of anti-tank weapons. The successful Swedish anti-tank weapon, the AT-4, in Sweden known as Pansarskott 86, is a light, simple to operate one-time use weapon. You could call it a one-time use called Gustav launcher. It's an excellent system if you want to deal with armored transports, but it's not really that good at dealing with tanks. But what if a simple launcher like the AT-4, a weapon carried by every infantry squad, could effectively be a threat to a main battle tank? Well, punching through the thick and impressive armor of a tank head-on requires a large warhead. Although, if you hit the tank from above, all of a sudden you don't need that big of a warhead anymore. Saab realized that if they could take the warhead of the RB56, along with its sensors that detect its target, and if they could jam that into a weapon system like the AT-4, then they would have created a weapon that allowed infantry to kill enemy tanks en masse. It would essentially change armored warfare, infantry warfare, for generations to come. If any soldier on the battlefield could destroy any tank in the world, war would never be the same. It was time for the soldier to take back the initiative that he had lost in the trenches of World War I, when the tank crushed all opposition. And this is essentially what Saab spent 10 years doing. They kept refining the RB56 until it no longer required a two-man crew, until it no longer required miles upon miles of heavy copper wire to find its target. They kept working at it until the finished product was an advanced AT-4 style weapon with a warhead that would fly in above a tank and fire its penetrator down at the weakest armor, punch a hole, and destroy the target. And it wasn't the older RB56 that was rebuilt into what would become the RB57. It was the RB56B with the Tandem warhead. The NLAW is a wire-guided ATGM that has had the wire removed, that has had the support structure removed, the guidance systems removed, and has been stripped away and boiled down to a point-and-shoot, fire-and-forget weapon system that is so powerful that an ordinary soldier has the firepower to destroy an enemy main battle tank, even when facing its heaviest and thickest frontal armor, even when it is covered in reactive armor. Does it sound like a wonder weapon? Well, Ukraine has provided us with some interesting statistics. During the early months of the war, by July of 2022, Ukraine claimed that the NLAW had taken out as many as 30 to 40% of the Russian tanks destroyed in the conflict up to that point. By then, it was estimated that Russia had lost some 1,500 tanks. We are talking 500 to 600 tanks destroyed by ordinary infantry. Not anti-tank teams, not heavy ATGM systems, but a weapon that is light enough and simple enough to be issued to ordinary infantry squads. A weapon you can learn to use just as easily as an AT-4 or RPG. That was in July 2022, a year ago. Part of the secret to its success is that it only needs 20 meters for the warhead to activate, or rather, it is activated by the time it reaches 20 meters. So you can effectively combat tanks at close range in an urban setting, or from a trench line as the enemy approaches your position, or in an ambush hiding in a tree line next to a field or a road. The NLAW is not a weapon that is used by specialized teams. It's not a weapon that requires hours of training. It is not a weapon that is only deployed here and there. The NLAW is a squad-level weapon that can be used by anyone, that anyone can pick up and point and fire. The NLAW has made the ordinary soldier one of the deadliest players on the battlefield. And if this was a game of chess, the pawn has all of a sudden become the rook. Thank you for watching. I hope you found the video interesting and you maybe even learned a thing or two. And yeah, that was it. All I had to say about the NLAW, and I hope I will see you in the next one.